Welcome to Modern Marketing Messages, the leading podcast discussing the latest and greatest in both online and offline marketing tactics, strategies, and trends. I'm your host, Taylor Karg, marketing content writer at AmericanEagle.com. Today, we're going to talk about optimizing your website's content. And as our listeners probably already know, well, at least I hope they know because I say it every time I introduce myself in the episode, I'm a writer, so I'm super excited about today's episode because of our guests and our topic. So I have here with me Al Edwards, Content Quality Control Manager at AmericanEagle.com, and Stephanie Strock, Senior Content Writer at AmericanEagle.com. Al, Stephanie, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Taylor. It's great to see you. Thanks for having us.
I'm super excited to get into the weeds of optimizing your content. But first, would you guys like to introduce yourselves a little bit about, your role here, how long you've been at the company, and a few details about your day-to-day responsibilities?
Yeah, I'll start. So I've been here a little under 2 years. Actually, fun fact, Taylor and I started on the same day
we
together.
Did. I remember seeing you in the lobby and it was just us two waiting for everyone else.
Yeah.
And we're like sitting there for 20 minutes. We're like, oh my gosh, what do we do?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I'm a writer. And you're like, oh, I'm a writer too. And it made me feel so much better. But
serendipitous.
Yes. So I've been here a little under 2 years, working with many different clients, optimizing their websites, creating blogs, even writing for like social campaigns and email. And it's great. I wear a lot of different hats. It's been amazing.
Awesome. Al, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Well, as you said, my name is Al Edwards. I'm a manager on the content team. I have the privilege of co-leading the content team with Rachel Bennett, a great lady that we work with. And we have 7 full-time content writers on the team here at AmericanEagle.com. And Steph, of course, being with us, which we love working with her every day.
Yeah, love it. So just before we dive into today's topic, I want to ask you guys a few details about your background and like your writing background and kind of just how you got to where you are today. Because, as a writer, it takes a lot of time for us to develop our expertise. So I kind of, want to know a little bit more about you guys.
Yeah. So I graduated with a degree in advertising from Columbia College, Chicago. And actually, I had no idea that like content writing was even a thing until I was in a copywriting class and I had won like a little competition we had in the class of like how to develop a catchy headline. And my teacher was like, that's a thing. Like you should do copywriting within advertising because I had a minor in journalism and a major in advertising. So what a better combination. So that's how I got started. And then afterwards, I did various internships and actually, one of my best friends works at American Eagle and she does like she's a UX designer.
Oh, awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she was like, oh, this sounds like the perfect thing for you. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm going for. So yeah.
Oh, awesome. Al, how about you?
Well, I spent a lot of years in the business world, actually, and in the insurance industry and the financial services industry. So I had a great opportunity to spend a lot of time with different types of businesses. I've always been a writer. A number of years ago, I published a book that's out on Amazon. So I've always been kind of a writer and around it and all this other kind of stuff. At a large company I worked for, I was always the guy when we would mess up at the company, our department made a mistake or something, I would always write the mea culpa letter, And a lot of my friends asked me to write their self-review portion of the review. I'd write it for the whole
I hope you charged
team.
a little
I
fee.
did. I got a lot of free lunches. That's my favorite kind of lunch is free, So I'd always been around it, and I was just given this wonderful opportunity to kind of reinvent myself a little later in life and become a professional writer here at AmericanEagle.com. And I just never looked back. It's been 5 years, and I've just absolutely loved every minute of it. So get to work with Steph, and we have a wonderful team, and so we'll talk a lot more about that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's never too late to reinvent the wheel and take on a new path.
That's right.
Also, real quick, let's plug the book. What's the name of it?
Oh, you're so good. Every time I'm here, you talk about that. It's just a little book. It's called 4 Failures Who Changed the World, and it's about Abraham Lincoln, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and believe it or not, Colonel Sanders from KFC. And it's the story of all the adversity they faced before they became successful. And the lesson of the book is just hang in there, and nobody's, these guys are no different than anyone else. Everyone's capable of doing what they want to do kind of thing. So
I love it. It's available on Amazon, you said?
It is.
All right, everyone, you heard that. Please go on Amazon and buy it.
Thank you.
Al, actually, by the way, didn't you just talk about your book on another podcast hosted by AmericanEagle.com Studios that you're on with our founder, Norb Savannasini?
That's right. Thank you. Boy, this is plug day. This is amazing. I didn't even pay for this
Al.
or anything. But yes, I have the privilege of hosting a podcast called People Don't Think, Let's Start Today. And it's I co-host it with AmericanEagle.com founder Norb Savannasini. And it's basically about positive thinking and perseverance and avoiding negativity in your life. And Norb wrote a wonderful book called The Harvest, and we interviewed him on that. And he was kind enough to allow me to talk about my book during one episode. So we've done about 15 episodes, and we do one each month. And it's available just where this one is too. So if anyone's interested in being a professional optimist, that's what we're talking about each month. So thank you for allowing me to mention that. So
yeah, awesome. I'm always here for a good AmericanEagle.com plug.
That's right.
All right. So jumping into today's topic, let's talk about content optimization. First things first, what is content optimization?
So content optimization, it can be a variety of different things, which I think is like the most fun aspect of it. So it's basically just taking a deeper look into your site and then, as the name should suggest, optimizing it. And this can come in a variety of different ways. It can come with SEO optimization. It can start with a content audit, which I think a lot of people don't know a lot about, but at AmericanEagle.com, the content team actually does do content audits, which is content optimization, where we start looking at your website and we just develop it and create a better, more search-friendly content on your website.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, we look at it this way. There's two entities, if you will, that we want to serve for our website customers. The first one is the Google that everyone likes to talk about. And the goal on Google is to rank as highly as possible as you can. So when someone is looking for your product or service, they can find you and you're not on page 7 and you get lost, among a million other things. And then we always want to never forget that the second entity or really person that we're trying to reach are real human beings. Right. So when we write content, it's a great combination of science and art. We want to, as Steph said, we want to optimize for SEO or search engine optimization. We want to help our customers rank as highly as they can on websites or on Google. But at the same time, we want to reach a human being because Google doesn't buy anything. Google doesn't call a plumbing company. Google doesn't buy Christmas gifts, whatever whatever you're trying to do online. So we want to reach a human being and affect them such that they take the action that the website is trying to accomplish, whether that be call us, join us, buy something, call us for more information, what that conversion is. That's what we call it in our business, a conversion. Whatever that goal is, we want to touch someone's heart that they will take an action that is going to help our customers succeed.
Right. I think through content, it's important to understand that as writers, we are connecting the business to the consumer in a way that's palatable for them. So whether that's through CTAs that are friendly or copy or anything else through blog posts that introduce them to the business and their website, we're just trying to be the business's author, but like the consumer's kind of ally. So we're trying to combine that and make it into something that's easy to understand and something that they want to be a part of. Like they want to be on your website. They see it's legitimate. They see it's fun. They see it's something that they want to, as Alex said, convert, but in a great way.
Yeah, and Taylor, the neat thing about what we do is we really have the privilege of writing for, AmericanEagle.com is famous for being able to handle pretty much any industry or any type of website. So we have written for just countless industries, whether that be B2B, business to business, B2C, business to consumer. There's a newer thing coming out called D2C, direct to consumer now. So we've really been able to work with so many different industries and trying to identify the audience that they're trying to capture. And many times there's multiple audiences. So we're trying to talk to different people at the same time. So no matter what a company does, whatever industry they're in or whom their audience is, whether it be B2B, B2C, D2C, whatever happens to be, we can do it. And we've had a lot of good luck with it. So
I love the way you guys just kind of described everything about content optimization, because there are a lot of nuances in content writing that I think if you aren't, a content writer, and if you haven't studied this or if you haven't done it, you don't really understand everything that goes into it. You're not just like sitting there and throwing words on a piece of paper or, a computer or whatever. And then it's great and it works and it converts. It's really a lot of thinking and a lot of research that goes behind it. So, you guys explained that perfectly. So my next question for you is, why is content optimization important? Why are we doing what we do?
Oh, man. So
that's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question, but there's so many reasons. Like I'll give you an example of a client that I had. This is just one example, but they were a very technical business and they had very little copy on their website, and people were starting to think that the website itself wasn't legitimate.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was no copy, and they were like, oh, we don't really want to say a bunch of stuff. But then afterwards, they kind of realized you need copy to have your consumer understand you. And, even legitimacy and credibility is a big part of content writing. Also, what Al mentioned, that we are trying to feed two different people. We're trying to feed
two
Google,
different beasts.
Yes. And of course, people. So, I think there's so much behind the scenes of content that people and businesses may not realize, that you need copy to search on, Google's famous search engine. And you also need people to understand the copy that's written on the website so that they want to purchase or take a service from you or anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
The funny thing about content is that I think a lot of people just think it just appears on the website somewhere. Sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of times people say, oh, well, what do you do? And I say, well, I'm a content writer. And they look at me and they're, what is that? And I said, well, have you ever gone on a website? And I said, yeah. And they said, have you ever read anything on a website? Yeah. Well, somebody wrote that.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I do. And they're like, oh, they thought it comes down from the clouds or something like that. So as Steph said, it's a real art and a science. Like I said, we're trying to make our customers be as visible as possible to the right audience that they want to be in front of, and also convince them that they need to take an action that is going to be in our customers' interest, and of course their interest, because they're going to be provided a lot of value from our customers. So it's we wish it was as simple as just writing down a bunch of words, but like I keep saying, there's a real science and an art to it, which is really makes it fun for us.
Yeah, I 100% agree. What kind of content are you guys writing on a frequent basis? There's a ton of content out there, but I want to hear from you guys and what you do with the various clients you work with.
Oh my gosh. Everything from blogs to landing pages to social media to white papers to email copy, everything. Anything you can imagine that follows the marketing, writing, we do it. We do everything. And we do it for a million different businesses. Like you could be writing for a gym 1 hour and then writing for an engineering company the next. It never gets boring. I think that's the best part about it, is that you are, what I said before, you're wearing so many different hats during the day and you're writing so many different things that, it's incredible what the content writers do.
Yeah, when we have new content writers start, I always kind of tell them that you have to be a chameleon. As Steph said, we are lucky enough to be able to work with so many different industries and jump from one company to another. As Steph said, we might be writing about aerospace and defense at 10 o'clock, and at 12 o'clock, we're writing about plumbing companies, and then we write about companies that make baseball caps or whatever the case may be. So the chameleon part of it, you have to be everything to everybody as much as you can. And as Steph said, we really have been fortunate enough we've been able to write pretty much any type of content that is needed on a website, as you mentioned, home pages, landing pages, SEO optimization, service pages, white papers, blogs. We've written animation scripts that are on YouTube. We've come up with taglines for companies. We've developed voice and tone personas for companies. So we just get involved in so much. Just really makes the day a lot of fun and very creative.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said, Steph, about things never getting boring because you're switching gears all the time. And even what I do on a daily basis is, yes, my customer essentially is AmericanEagle.com, but there's so many different things that we're writing on a daily basis: blog posts, white papers, case studies, email copy, social media. So I definitely felt that. What kind of content do you enjoy writing the most? Another loaded question.
No, my favorite, I think it's so weird. It can go, I really prefer either doing like landing pages or really long blog posts. I just feel like, I mean, obviously, there's so much research that goes into copywriting and content writing. Ignoring the content writing alone, the research probably half the battle there.
Yeah.
And I just love it. I think as content writers, we were like those weird kids in high school that really loved doing research papers. And
I would agree. Yes. Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of like what you get to do as your job. So like writing really long, like ultimate guide blog posts, I think that's really fun, or landing pages.
All right. Well, I'll keep that in mind if we ever need help on our side. Al, how about you? What do you like to write?
Well, we're going to start a club called the Egghead Club, I think, because we're all these suffering and intellectuals here. But no, as Steph said, I enjoy writing a little bit of everything. We've written so many different industries and stuff. You just learn so much as a content writer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that brings up a really good point that I'd like to mention, because a lot of times customers will come to us and say, well, you don't really know our business, so how are you going to write about it? And I kind of want to say this flat out, early on, because I want to make sure people are comfortable with this. Before we ever put our hands on the keyboards to write anything, we do a tremendous amount of research to make sure that we understand what they're trying to, not only what their industry is all about, and understand that, but really what they're trying to accomplish and who their audience is. What are your goals? Whom are you speaking to? And at the same time, we want to learn about your business. We will never be the subject matter experts that our customer is, because that's their business, just like we wouldn't expect them to be website developing experts, because that's why they came to AmericanEagle.com, right? But we will work with them very closely, whether that be interviewing them, working with them, getting material from them, or the combination of all those things together to make sure we understand who they are, what they're doing, just as importantly, why they do it. That's a big differentiator in the marketplace. And putting all that together to understand whom they're speaking to, their tone, their voice, everything about them, so we can send that message out to be successful for them.
I like how you mentioned the why, because I think that's something that I specifically always think about in my writing. And even I think it's become like a huge part of my personality, is just always understanding the why behind everything I do and like other people's decisions. I'm a big why asker. So I like how you mentioned that, because I think that's hugely important.
We really, I'll give you an example. Let's just take a plumbing company. Okay. So, we can understand the what and the how, the services they do, all the tools they have, the certifications, the experience, all that stuff. But, there's a lot of different plumbing companies out there, just like every industry has a lot of competition. We always go for the why in addition to the what and how, because we want to make them stand out in the marketplace.
Yeah. Why
should we do business with ABC Plumbing versus CDE Plumbing? And we talk about they're a family business. They've been around since 1939, 5 generations. We're local here. We are very involved in the community. We do a lot of charity work. Content writing is about storytelling.
Yeah,
and on every page, we want to tell a story. Even though the homepage might have introductory material, we never know where someone's going to enter a website from. So we want to tell the story as much as we can on every page and get that messaging and that branding out there, because that is the why that you should do business with this particular company. So,
love it. So let's get into some ways to optimize your website's content. I want to start off with SEO. What are some SEO optimizations you guys have done for customers?
Yeah. So first, I think you would just look at the current content that lives on your website and run it through, an SEO tool to discover what's good about your content and then what's maybe not so good. And then we, would change around language, change tone, anything that meets like Google's, their
long list of requirements.
Oh my gosh, yes. And yeah, just, change it to meet those requirements, but also to fit the tone of the consumer, like we've been talking about. You're obviously the two beasts. That's just the main point of it. So you would do that.
SEO is really a cool science. It really is. First of all, we have a unbelievably talented and experienced SEO team at AmericanEagle.com that we work with very closely to make sure that we are optimizing content, as Steph said, as best as possible. But as she mentioned, SEO is very much a science. We do a lot of research about a company's industries and the terms and headers and keywords that people are searching for. Not only what are they searching for, but how many times a month. That's called search volume. There's a difficulty computation about like how hard is it to compete for a particular keyword. So when we get these reports back from the SEO team that we work with very closely, we will take the content, write what we think we need to write, the messaging and the branding and the audience and everything, and then plug in the SEO elements, whether that be keywords or what we call headers. Every paragraph should have kind of like a title or a header to it. And we will use those phrases or different keywords to make sure that when somebody searches for something and Google goes to crawl and index a site for those certain words, that it's going to find those words. The funny thing about SEO sometimes is that all of us are guilty of this. We always don't use great English when we search for something. A great Italian restaurant, Niles. You wouldn't put that in a sentence kind of thing. So we try and make it proper English and yet still use those keywords in there. So that's kind of a challenge too. We have to bring out our true writing skills to be able to make sense out of it.
Try and make it
I think it's worth noting too that Google Docs keyword stuffing too. So even if you have a massive list of keywords, and yes, it'd be great if you could just insert all of them and you'll come up on spot number 2 on a Google search. But if you have too many, Google doesn't like that either. So it really is
finding the perfect balance.
Yeah, finding the perfect balance and using, what you've learned over the years as a writer.
Right.
And like you said, yes, we are writing for the two sides, Google and the human side of it, because humans don't want to read a bunch of keywords in a row. They're like, this does. I know someone was not, thinking of me while they were writing this. So.
Exactly.
100%.
And, to mention that, Taylor, Google has a lot of integrity. Google is always looking for quality, helpful content, and they will reward companies for that. At the same time, they can be a little punitive too, like you said, keyword stuffing. Many, many years ago, nobody does this anymore because it's kind of like, robbing a bank with a Model T Ford. No, nobody does it anymore because it's not too helpful. But many, many years ago, we never did it, but in the industry, people would put keywords in white font. So the human wouldn't see it. It was like subliminal in the movies, like something would flash real fast.
Oh my gosh.
Your mind would see it, but your eyes wouldn't see it. And they did this keyword stuffing where they would put keywords in white font. So the human wouldn't see it, but it would be there in the search results. And Google, many years ago got wise to that and said, no, you're going to get punished if you do that stuff. So keyword stuffing still exists, but it's an evolution.
Yeah.
So
different forms.
Exactly. So keyword stuffing is still bad. So we want to avoid it whenever we can. So
let's talk about optimizing content for quality and style. We talked about SEO. What do you guys do to look out for quality and style?
So there are a few different things that we do when it's specifically quality and style. And I think this gears more towards the human element rather than Google, although it is still a major player. When you want to look at quality, this is where research comes in. You're constantly doing research on your business that you're working for, and seeing their tone of voice, seeing what they want to represent to the customer, and altering the content to fit that. I mean, you could write a 2,000 word blog post on ratchets, but no one's going to want to read it if it's dry and awful, and if there's like
bad grammar, punctuation, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. So it's all about finding that happy medium with everything that you write in there. I mean, yes, of course, there's also the SEO element, which is incredibly important. But I think it also is just, we're pretty much the authors of these businesses. We're explaining what they do, what their services are, and again, the big why. So I think it's important to just have that human element. You're doing human to human at the end of the day. It's a business, but it's human to human.
That's right. That's a great way to put it. Instead of B to C, B to B, it's H to H, really, human to human when you think about it, or H to G, human to Google. But H to G and H. That's probably what it should be. But this whole idea of content quality when it comes to content, it really is a beautiful combination of a lot of things. The quality is measured by effectiveness, as Steph was saying. A lot of people in this world, including probably all of us, we're so used to right now information. People's attention spans are not probably as great as they were many years ago.
They're only getting
it's only getting
shorter,
worse. It's not getting better. So, we want to have enough content that you get the message across and that Google can see your website and crawl it and index it and all that good stuff. But we don't want to make things too long just for the sake of making them too long, because you're going to lose people. So content writing is a beautiful combination, an art form, if you will, of impactful content that's long enough to achieve your goals, but at the same time is going to grab someone's attention and motivate them to take an action towards your company. So this whole notion of something's got to be 1,800 words long about, toothbrushes. Well, okay, I understand that maybe from a crawling standpoint, but it's not helpful.
No.
And Google might even say it's too long. It's not quality. There's fluff. Google does not like fluff. But Google likes good quality information that's helpful. And we've been lucky enough. We've had a number of featured snippets, I think they're called, on Google, where some of our websites have actually been featured as quality, good information. So that's
look
exciting.
At you guys.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's talk about optimizing content for conversions. What are your guys' thoughts on how to optimize content to hopefully increase conversions?
Sure. Well, as we've been saying, it's a combination of a lot of things. Obviously, we talk about SEO. We want to make sure that keywords, phrases, headers are all correct to make sure we're pulling in the right people for search results. Then it's all about quality information. Making sure we get the messaging out there of what they do, the brand, the name, the company, the what, the how, the why. And just as importantly, we want to make sure that we're reaching people to lead towards a conversion. We talk about the conversion funnel, literally a funnel where a reader or a user will start at the top of a funnel and we work them way down to the bottom where they're going to click what we call a CTA button or a call to action.
Yep, I was just going to mention that.
There you go.
Yep.
For a long time, I thought the CTA was the Chicago Transit Authority, but once I got into the website business, it's call to action. But it really is a funnel, bringing someone in a great way, in a great experience. Everything's an experience now, we talk about. We want to lead somebody down a conversion funnel that's going to help them achieve whatever goal they're trying to work on, and of course, achieve a goal for our customers. So,
and just go back on the call to action thing. This is something that we've really been trying to incorporate in all of our, blog posts, landing pages, even our physical marketing collateral that our sales reps take to trade shows and stuff. We want to try to hit them hard and hit them home with a CTA, one that's, unique, but really pushes them to at least give us a call or send us an email. So I think that's super important.
Yeah, again, I think it's about finding that balance too, because as we discussed, you can have a long blog post, but if there's no information on where you can go further or where you can, shop this item or, buy this service or something, it's just empty. It kind of just sits empty.
Yeah.
And conversions don't have to be like this life-changing, I'm ordering $25,000 of stuff right now because I read 2 paragraphs kind of thing. A conversion is contact us, fill out a form for an email, call us, maybe buy something small to start out with. Those are the things, we're looking for those big sales too, right? If we can get them.
Yeah, but that's very, unlikely to happen.
Right. That's down the road, right? But conversions are small goals that lead to big things. Like I said, give us a call, contact us, fill out this form.
Download our white paper.
Our white paper. Come see us at this trade show or mention us here or whatever the case may be. So those small things lead to big, big things.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. I think, it's good that if people can understand that for conversions, we're not just talking about, a $25,000 order. It really is just as simple as contacting a company.
We want those. They'll come, but it's got to start small, right?
So where does tone and brand voice come into play when we're talking about optimizing content?
I think tone and brand voice are huge. It changes what you're trying to say for your business. I mean, you take one business that is plumbing and another business that's a gym, and you can say the exact same things, but it will be different for each industry. And I think as writers, we do a ton of research and we speak to our clients and we really get to know them and understand what their wants are and how we can reflect that to the consumers. Because if you're reading something and it doesn't feel like it's genuine, you're not going to get anywhere. I mean, it's 2023. People can tell when you're being genuine, when you're a genuine business, and when you really know what you're talking about and your business. And I think that's where tone and brand voice come in, especially when you're reading writing. That's either social media too. When you're reading social posts and you're reading landing pages, you can tell. You can tell when the tone is off. And I think we have to expect that our consumers are smarter than they are. Yeah.
And just to go back on what you said about, for a gym and for a plumbing company, you wouldn't say the same things. That's really why tone and brand voice is so important, because you're not going to, speak the same way to someone who needs plumbing work than to try to get someone motivated to go to a gym.
Exactly. And you're just you're trying to find that like happy point in the business and where they stand out.
Yeah, no, that's great. Tone and voice is, I think about this a lot when we talk about this with our customers. Everyone in the studio and everyone listening out there has a personality. They have an identity of who they are as a person and the type of person they portray to the world. And that's basically what tone and voice is. Who are you as a company or an organization? Who are you, and what type of voice do you want to, talk through? Do you want to be kind of, a tech company who's kind of more serious and a lot of technical information, and you're kind of formal because that's your audience? You're talking to a bunch of engineers about tool and die equipment. You don't want to joke around and talk about flowery stuff and all this kind of stuff. You have to talk to the audience that you are working with, and yet still at the same time be true to who you are. So we work a lot with our customers for tone and voice. Sometimes they come to us and they know pretty much who they are or their tone or their voice. And sometimes they come to us and say, we don't really know. We're kind of confused. Help us. And we've done that. We've started from scratch with startups, and we'll help them define a tone and voice, and we'll help them identify what we call the personas, or the people that they are trying to speak to. So when you think of tone and voice, think about your own life and your own personality or your family. The way you speak to your child might be different than you speak to your boss, or you speak to the bus driver, or whatever the case may be. That's all tone and voice. Who are you projecting out into the world? And we help customers figure that out.
So what are some real life examples of where or when content writing has made a significant impact for any one of your customers?
So the example that I gave before, where you had this very technical client who really wanted to keep it clean and simple, but yet their consumer base was concerned that the business wasn't legitimate, that there was like, is this real? Is this a real
shell company?
Yeah. And so that's what they came to us. They're like, we're not seeing like the conversions that we want. Like, what's going on? And we basically had to say, you don't have any copy on your website. You need to let people know what you do and like why they should partner with you. And I think that was just like a big wake up call that content, I think we all like see content every day. And so we're a little like jaded to it.
Yeah.
But when you don't have it, it seems so like weird. It's so like, oh, is this a real company? Is this a real business? And so that was a big one that was like, yes, content is very important, not for Google. I mean, yes, Google, but for people.
Yeah. In that specific case, it was really important to reach the humans behind, the one searching for it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm just very proud of the people I work with. I'm so happy and grateful to work with them. We've had some neat milestones in the last year or so. We work with a very large company that is in the senior living community space, and we write blogs for them every month. And we recently, last year actually, we wrote a blog about blood pressure and the elderly. And just kind of a blog we did, I didn't think it was
just a fun one, casual.
Just because of, And it turns out to date, last time I looked, it's had 135,000 views.
Holy smokes.
On this little blood pressure thing. And we did an infographic for it. Our wonderful graphics team put together an infographic. And that infographic turned out to be the #1 infographic on elder blood pressure on Google.
No way.
Even beating out Harvard and the National Institute of Health. So kudos to our graphics team for that and the content team that wrote the blood pressure. But who knows, who would think you're sitting at your little keyboard there and 135,000 people have read this blog, and that's a huge exposure for this particular customer that we
and especially
love
on something like blood pressure for the elderly, like, this will be helpful for
it's very specific.
Our customer. But like you said, it's very specific.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. I'm proud of you guys for that.
Oh, well, thank you. A couple other quick things. One of our writers put together a new website for a credit union. And we worked with our SEO team very carefully on identifying words and phrases and things that we plugged in there. After a time, it came back to us that their organic search for certain pages was increased by 4,000%. I thought there was a typo in the comma. I thought it was maybe 40% or what. No, 4,000%, which was amazing work.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That we did. And then lastly, a fun example, we also work in the PPC pay-per-click arena. A lot of people, I want people to know about that too. And one of our great guys came to me one day and said, Al, it was a tool and die company. And, they were saying things like on their pay-per-click advertising, like, best tool and die in the Midwest or the biggest in the Midwest. And he said, that's really not cutting the proverbial mustard, so let's try and come up with something different. So he said, just go for it. Come up with crazy stuff. So we came up with phrases like, our drills will give you thrills, and our lathes will be your fave. And, for their saws, our saws are your cut of tea. And I mean, just silly stuff. And we sent it out, and Google actually came back and said that was going to be their preferred method of writing PPC copy for that industry. So you never know, worry about thinking out of the box, because that gets people's attention, and it's just not the same humdrum. So in addition to what Steph said, these are just quick examples of the impact we've had for our customers, and we're very proud of that.
Yeah. I like what you said. The tool one is funny because in that case, you made something funny that would resonate with humans, and then Google came back and said, oh no, now this is the preferred way that we're going to do
all
this.
About that perfect
balance, like you said. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about evergreen content. First of all, what is it, and then why is it important to have evergreen content on your website?
So with everything changing so fast, trends die like that, and evergreen content really means that content that stands the test of time, that can be used all throughout the year. It's not specific to seasons. It's not specific to anything that is temporary. And it's important to have evergreen content because, as everything is quickly changing and there's a new trend now, and things get dated so quickly, you want to have something that's constant, that's very consistent, copy that can be for every reader, for every season, that it can work all throughout the year. And that's just a very important part of any type of content, whether it's on your landing page, whether it's in social.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I think Steph summed it up perfectly. I mean, evergreen, coming from the evergreen tree, right? Mm-hmm. That's always in bloom. It never dies and gets brown and the leaves fall off, kind of thing. As Steph said, we always want to keep websites fresh and keep them current and keep them relevant. So we always help our customers avoid non-evergreen content. One of the things we talk about, for example, just simple things like on blogs, having a date on a blog may not help it because, that information might be completely relevant still, but it's from 2014. So your immediate thought is like, oh, well, this is like antiquated, outdated information.
Yeah,
well,
I'm not going to learn anything about now from something that's from, 2014.
Exactly. But it could be completely relevant and still up to date and all that kind of stuff. So we want to keep content as fresh, and we want to keep content updated. So there are techniques for evergreen content, but we also want to focus on keeping your content updated with new content, and making sure that with regard to SEO, search words and phrases that are maybe relevant now that they weren't relevant, a year ago. Another quick example, if a company's been in business for, 25 years, instead of writing, for 20 years now, we've been blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? In 5 years now, it's going to be 25 years. So, saying something like, since 1994, we have, so then no matter what year it is, it's still relevant because it says 1994.
Yeah.
These are little ways to keep your content evergreen, as it's called.
Exactly. And like back to the original question of like content optimization, I don't think businesses a lot of the time realize that their content may be outdated. I don't think they think about that, but then that takes a hit too for like search engine ranking.
Google for sure.
And that's something that we do. We go through it and we analyze like, oh, is this outdated? Oh, this is from 10 years ago. Maybe you want to change up the content. So that's another big one.
Yeah. And I think that's an important part of like doing a content audit too, and just making sure that, because I think people are always, oh, what new stuff can we add? Let's add more and more and more to our site. And you're like, well, why don't we look at things that we could possibly delete or update? Because that also, helps not only the reader, but also, the beast that is Google search engine. So talking about, evergreen content and seeing if we need to update any content on our website, how often do you guys suggest, going back and reevaluating the content that's on your website?
I actually just wrote a blog about this.
Oh, perfect.
Funny enough. But I would say it doesn't have to be too often if you're already pretty consistent with your evergreen content. But if you notice that some certain pages aren't ranking and you can kind of tell like the content's a little bit outdated, I would suggest probably going in once a quarter. Might be a little often, but like once every 6 months, maybe once a year, just looking back at your content and seeing, oh, is this outdated? Oh, is this language, maybe it could be altered to fit this new upcoming generation, anything like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I agree with that completely. Another thing is, working with a company like AmericanEagle.com, we can help you with our SEO team and our content writers, help you understand that maybe you do need a refreshing in the SEO department, because we can do the research and the keyword research and what's trending, what's searching in your industry specifically, to make sure that your content is kind of up to date. Because as I mentioned a few minutes ago, what your industry was searching for a year ago may be completely different than today.
Exactly.
Good point.
So it's the old expression in business that you either evolve or you die. You have to keep up with
it's true.
the times, and that's true about humans too, right? You got to change with the times and everything. But so there's ways for us to help our customers with that too. And we can do that in our little content audits that we do, and making sure people are up to date with everything they need to be.
So I just have one last question for you guys for today's episode. And that is, what's one main message you want listeners to take away?
That's a good one. I would say that content is more than you think it is. Content is everything. It's everywhere, on a billboard, on your website, in your social media. And content is so important to building and then sustaining your brand, your business, your website. I mean, you can have a website that's kind of garbage and then put all your money into promoting it with, ads and stuff like that. But if people come back to your website and they realize it's not that great, well, then you just spent money promoting something that isn't that great to begin with. And so instead, really make sure that the content that lives on your website is something that works. And obviously the SEO team at AmericanEagle.com is fantastic, and they can tell you, oh, these pages rank, these pages don't. But really make sure and hone in on the content that's currently on your website. If it needs to be optimized, it needs to be optimized. But make sure that's great, because then when you go to promote it and put out advertisements for it, you will see the conversions afterwards.
Yeah, I think that is so right. And there's an expression someone said once time that meant a lot to us, and that is that words move hearts and hearts click mouses.
Yeah.
It's all about influencing people to take a step in the direction of a customer that's not only going to help them, the customer, but also help our customer. And the content team at AmericanEagle.com is ready, willing, and able to help. We can pretty much tackle anything you're looking to do. And we just really want to help our customers succeed, just like every other area of our company. And we just love what we do. We love writing, and we love seeing results like we just talked about a few minutes ago. So we're so grateful, Taylor, to have this chance to talk about our little content team here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I had a fantastic time talking with you guys. I love, listening to other content writers and pick your brains about all of the stuff that we do on a daily basis. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Modern Marketing Messages. If you enjoyed this episode with Al Edwards, check out episode 14 of Modern Marketing Messages, where we discuss content governance and the importance of brand standards. For more information about the topics discussed today, check out the description of this episode. And if you like this episode, follow the podcast wherever you listen to them to stay up to date with us. While you're at it, give us a rating and share this podcast with others. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Modern Marketing Messages. This episode is brought to you by AmericanEagle.com Studios. I'm Taylor Karg, and I'll be back with another Modern Marketing Message.